Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. So today I'd like to go over the situation with DC Comics and Warner Brothers and their whole DCEU, or just lineup of DC films. Um, it I did one of these for Marvel a while ago, before Endgame came out, just talking about the future movie plans for Marvel and what were confirmed, and they have a bunch of dates, what movies could fit those dates that haven't been announced yet. And recently, I've seen the upcoming slate for Warner Brothers and DC Comics, and I wanted to do another video kind of following those same lines. So we're just going to go through all of the film projects that have either been confirmed or are very heavily rumored to be going on at DC. If they have a release date, I will give a release date. Most of them do not, but and also any background on the projects. And keep in mind, some of these projects, even though they've been confirmed to be in some form of pre-production, they're not really fully fledged films. They could spend, they could go right into development hell, and I'll try and clarify that when I'm talking about each individual film. Now, so let's just get into it. So the first film on the timeline is Joker, which is coming out this October 4th. And Joker, I already did a video breaking down the first Joker trailer, so I'm not going to go too much into it. There were some plot leaks that supposedly came out, but none of those were able to be essentially confirmed, although they do kind of fit the narrative that we see in the trailer, so I'm not really going to go over those too heavily. Seems to be somewhat of an Elseworlds type of story, where this is Joker's own internalized film. This Joker, it does not exist in the DCEU as it's been created. This is just kind of its own separate little thing. And like I said, I thought the trailer was really good, and I'm going to give this movie a chance because I really do enjoy Joaquin Phoenix as an actor. So moving on to that, then we have Birds of Prey, which comes out February 7th of next year. Now, Margaret Robbie is coming back as Harley Quinn for this. Mary Elizabeth Winstead has been cast as Huntress, and Jernese Smollett-Bell is going to be playing uh, Black Canary, along with Renee Montoya, who's being played by Rosie Perez, uh, and the Ella J. Basco, I believe I pronounced that correctly, coming in as Cassandra Cain, who becomes Batwoman. And then Ewan McGregor is coming in for the villain of Black Mask, which I find that extremely interesting. But Birds of Prey is it was kind of Margaret Robbie's brainchild after Suicide Squad. She pitched the film. A lot of people ran with it. I believe she's also an executive producer on the movie. But it's going to be kind of interesting introducing all those kind of side characters, because a lot of them, a lot of them have they kind of spawn from other characters. So it's going to be kind of interesting if they're going to relate those back, if they're going to go into anything. And also, I'm really interested to see Ewan McGregor as Black Mask, because I think that would be very, very interesting. You really don't get to see him play a villain very many times, but he is a great actor. Now, after that, we get into some of the other ones. So again, these are all the ones that are confirmed and are in production, some form of production. Wonder Woman 1984, which is coming out June 5th of next year. Now, the thing with Wonder Woman 1984 is I like the initial castings. Kristen Wiig is coming in for this one as well. She's going to play the Wonder Woman villain Cheetah, and then Chris Pine is coming back in some way, even though he got blown up at the end of the first film. Spoiler for that, I guess. Gal Gadot is coming back to play Wonder Woman, and again, they're kind of bringing all the stuff back together. They're placing it in a new timeline. They're kind of doing what Fox did with the X-Men films, and I like that. That's kind of because you do have a large time frame to play with Wonder Woman, and then you can still have the movies set. The other movies, if she shows up in other films again, at various points in time, or when she's, and then you can also have her in the present time. So there's a lot to jump around with, and I'm glad they're kind of jumping around in the time stream. It keeps things kind of fresh. It does kind of have a little bit of it has a little bit of an inkling of that Captain Marvel 90s stuff. If they overdo the 80s stuff in the advertising, it could get really, really old really fast. But I think they'll do a good job of it. The first Wonder Woman movie was very good. I have high hopes for this. So then we have a film that's confirmed for August 6th of 2021, and that is The Suicide Squad. Instead of Suicide Squad 2, they're calling it The Suicide Squad. That's not going to get confusing. Um, but this is apparently a. At first, it was rumored to be a reboot. It might just be a soft reboot of the Suicide Squad. They are having some characters come back from the first movie, so it will still be connected in some way. And this is being directed by James Gunn. This is the movie that Warner Brothers hired him for when Disney had fired him before they had hired him back. So this is going to have Margaret Robbie coming back again as Harley Quinn. Idris Elba has been cast in a mystery role in this, and nobody's really too sure who he was playing. They thought he was going to be filling in for Will Smith and Deadshot, but this might be something completely different. So that's very interesting. Joel Kinnaman is coming back as Joe Flagg, and Jai Courtney is also coming back as Captain Boomerang, as well as the mystery casting of John Cena, which nobody knows what he's going to play. But look, I like the Guardians of the Galaxy films, and that's an ensemble piece. This is essentially DC's response to Guardians of the Galaxy. So I guess if you're going to make a rip-off of something, you might as well hire the guy that made the original. It does make that does make sense. But that film should be interesting. I'm interested more to see the marketing and how certain things are going to go. And we also have Matt Reeves's The Batman, which is set. It does not have a release date as of yet, but it has entered into full pre-production, and they just announced recently that Robert Pattinson is going to be playing the younger version of Batman. So this one will be interesting. Again, I kind of went over this a lot before, so I'm not going to reiterate all the stuff that I've already said. But it's an interesting project. I like Robert Pattinson in the role. I think he's a good actor. I think he can shake the Twilight vibes and the Twilight people that's still only associated with that franchise if he does a good job and he has a good PR. He has good PR people around him. So that's for Matt Reeves's The Batman, and then we move on to now the next ones are kind of no-brainers, even though some of them haven't been officially confirmed yet. They're going to do an Aquaman 2, and Jason Momoa and Amber Heard are probably going to come back, or not Amber Heard. I can't remember who played Mira in. No, it was Amber Heard. Um, and it'll be pretty interesting to see them come back and do a sequel. Right now, I guess there's debate whether or not it's going to involve more Ocean Master or more Black Manta or something like that. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Again, the first Aquaman was a good film, so that should, as long as they continue it on, and it seems like James Wan is fairly involved in this film as much as he was the first, at least for the time being. So that should be interesting, but we'll see how that goes forward. The next is a Black Adam movie, which again, this thing has been teased for years and years and years. Dwayne the Rock Johnson was cast as Black Adam, I think, back in 2012, and now they're doing and now they're about to make the movie. It was I can't remember if it was 2012, but it was a long time ago when he was cast as that. And people originally thought he was going to show up in Shazam, but that did not that I don't believe materialized, but they're working on essentially a Black Adam movie. Now, there's no word technically yet, I don't think, on whether or not it's going to be an origin film for Black Adam that takes place back, in the I think it's Egypt, ancient Egypt, or if they're going to do a Black Adam movie where he comes in and beats up Shazam or something like that. I don't know. It could be interesting. I think the origin story would probably be best. Um, but that kind of rounds out. Oh, sorry. There is one more movie. There is also The Trench, which is a spin off from Aquaman. Which this has me really interested because it kind of follows the same vein as New Mutants that Fox was trying to put out. And New Mutants was essentially marketed as a superhero horror film, like a hard horror film that just involves superheroes. And the trench seems to be following that because they're saying it's going to have strong horror elements, and it's basically, I believe it's the Marianas Trench that they're talking about. Is that there's sea creatures that live down there, and again, it's the Aquaman story. So I don't believe Jason Momoa or anybody from the Aquaman cast is going to make cameos in this film. This seems like a spin-off, and it kind of only related in name only. But that idea of a superhero horror film is something that it's been toyed around with for a little while. I mean, you had stuff like Spawn and Batman, which were dark, but they weren't really terrifying. That's kind of what it seems like they're trying to go for here, is a very kind of staunch horror film. And again, I don't know how this is actually going to factor into the DC universe, film universe as a whole. Uh, but it seems like it's going to be a fairly interesting film. So now we move from the films that we know for a fact are in production to the films that are essentially close to happening. And these ones are basically, they're almost a sure thing, or they've been in development for so long you kind of have to say that they're almost ready to break out. Now, the first one on this list is The Flash. Now, this is supposed to be a film starring Ezra Miller. He wasn't received very well in Justice League. I personally didn't think he was that terrible, but I didn't think he was very good either. He wasn't really a standout. And the movie has been on the slate for a while. It was actually, I think, originally supposed to come out in late 2016 or 2017, but they keep pushing it back because they keep losing directors. I think the script might have been rewritten three times too. So this movie has basically been stuck in development hell. But it still does have a chance to get made, and they're still trying to get it made because the Flash is one of DC's flagship superheroes. So getting him in his own movie is a big priority for them. So now the next one, again, this is kind of a no-brainer, but it hasn't really been confirmed, is Shazam 2. Now, Shazam did make a decent amount of money at the box office, but its success is also in part by the fact that it had a $90 million budget. But it was well received. People seem to really like it, especially Zachary Levi playing the superhero version of Billy Batson and Shazam. So this could go a long way, and they do set some stuff up in the Shazam movie. So we'll see where it takes them. And again, this might actually be the actual Shazam Black Adam showdown, as opposed to the Black Adam film, which might just be an origin story. So this could be Shazam versus Black Adam. It's kind of like in Christopher Nolan's trilogy, where Batman fought the Scarecrow in Batman Begins just to make way for the Joker in Dark Knight. So it could be one of those situations. Now we have the Batgirl movie. Now this one is kind of a head scratcher. I don't really know why you would make a movie out of Batgirl, because it's really not. I mean, again, her entire thing is that she's basically a sidekick for Batman. And Joss Whedon was originally brought on to do this movie, but after the Me Too people wound up coming after him, he had a lot of negative PR, and they wound up dropping him from the film, or he dropped the film, whatever you want to say. Actually, sorry, I stand corrected. That was after Justice League flopped. They took him off Batgirl because I believe he was put on that before he was brought in to help out with Justice League. But a Batgirl movie, I don't think is very likely. Even if it does get made, it's probably going to be pretty terrible. Again, I just don't feel like she's a character of that you can translate to screen very well without Batman or Robin or somebody else in the movie like that. I mean, I could see like maybe a Batgirl Batwoman team up film that could possibly work. Uh, but moving forward from that, we have Green Lantern Corps. Now, this is one that I'm really excited about. This is a movie that it's being written by Jeff Johns, who again I believe he wrote Green Lantern at DC Comics for a while, among other titles. But he's been writing the script along with I can't remember the co-writer, but uh, it's been in development, but this seems like actually a really great idea to kind of introduce the Green Lantern Corps. Instead of just having a movie that followed Hal Jordan, if you had a movie that kind of followed the Green Lanterns as a group, as a core, and you got to see Kilowog and uh, uh, why am I John Stewart, Guy Gardner, all those other Green Lanterns that come in, maybe because you have like it's almost like a team movie. It's basically like a team movie, except it's all Green Lanterns, which again I think would be kind of interesting. And Jeff Johns is a fairly good comic writer, so well most of the time. So seeing him take that and put it onto the screen is very interesting to me. So I'd be curious where this movie goes, and I think it is likely to happen. They're just kind of still trying to wash off the stain from Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern from 2013, even though it's been 6 years since that movie came out. People still do remember the horribleness of it. Um, Now the next one is New Gods, and New Gods it's based off. It's kind of like the Eternals movie with Marvel. That's kind of the parallel to it. They're nothing alike in the two universe characters that are in those movies, but or in those comics, but it's kind of their answer to it, kind of like how Guardians of the Galaxy or Suicide Squad is DC's answer to Guardians of the Galaxy. But the thing that kind of has me concerned about this is it's being directed by Ava DuVernay, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I think I am. Who is the director of A Wrinkle in Time? Now that's concerning because A Wrinkle in Time was not very well received by audiences. They did not really like it. It was accused of a lot of stuff, forced diversity and a number of other things, and when you do that and then you get hired on for something else that's kind of a big, relatively a big deal, it's concerning to see if that if that director could step up to the plate. So we'll see where this goes. Again, it's early stages. I think they're just writing the script now, so we'll see where it goes. And now that's kind of the projects that are probably going to happen and projects that are already happening. And now we're going to go into the rumors, or basically the films that have been rumored or are in very early stages of production or have been stuck in production hell. Now, first thing we're going to look at is a Jared Leto Joker movie. Now, Jared Leto played the Joker in Suicide Squad, and to be frank, he sucked. I thought he was bad. I thought he could get the visuals down, and really his best lines were unfortunately used for the trailer. And I was hoping for more of that in the film, but it didn't happen. So he was kind of one of the drawbacks to the movie. And the other stuff is some of the shenanigans he did on set were kind of weird, but I don't think this movie is going to happen, especially if the Joaquin Phoenix film takes off and people really like it. I don't think they're going to put out another Joker property that's related to a very shaky film like Suicide Squad. So I don't know if that one's happening. Then we move down to a Harley Quinn Joker supervillain romance film, or at least that's what it's being touted as. Again, I don't know if that one's going to happen. Margaret Robbie is already going to be in Birds of Prey, and again, if that takes off, I don't know if they're going to do another movie with her and Jared Leto as the Joker. It would be a little bit concerning. So I don't know if that one's going to happen either. Those two are kind of 50-50 for me in terms of will they happen. The next one is a Supergirl film. Now, this is going to be kind of interesting because they do have the television show that's still going on the CW. But at the same time, you don't know, are they going to relate this back into Man of Steel, or the Henry Cavill's version of Superman because she's supposed to be Superman's cousin, or are they going to go their own way with it, kind of like the Joker movie? So it's very up in the air right now. Nobody knows what story they're going to do. I think if you do a Supergirl story, the newer version of her origin that they have, where she essentially precurses the coming of Brainiac. I think that would be better served as a Justice League film if they did another Justice League film, which unfortunately that is not on the list. I would have actually liked to have seen them try to do another ensemble movie and not rush it this time, but maybe they're just giving it a bit of time for the original Justice League to kind of fade out of people's minds, or they're getting ready for the Snyder Cut to gauge interest and maybe they'll greenlight one. So that would be interesting. Then we go down to a Nightwing movie. Again, this kind of has the same problems as the Batgirl film, and then you're also taking Dick Grayson and you're skipping past the Robin stage and going directly into Nightwing. So there's issues there. There's issues there. So I don't think that one is going to happen. So we have two maybes and two no's probably. Next is Justice League Dark. I hope this movie happens because Justice League Dark is very interesting. But the only question that I have about it is the fact that the Swamp Thing TV series was canceled, even though it probably looked like the best TV series they were going to have on that DC streaming network. So something is obviously wrong. They don't really like that character. They refused to bring Constantine back in film form because people didn't like the Keanu Reeves version 15 years ago. And there's a lot of other stuff, that there's a lot of extenuous characters. It's kind of almost like a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen in a way, where it's kind of these monstery type of characters that all join up. So I would like to see it happen. I think it would be interesting, but I don't know if that one is going to go. I really hope it does, though. Gotham City Sirens, which again, this could possibly be a sequel to Birds of Prey, but Gotham City Sirens is essentially it basically takes the idea of it's Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy and Huntress. Sometimes it's Huntress and maybe some other people. They're supposed to be a bunch of three supervillains living in an apartment. It's basically kind of like a Sex in the City for Gotham's female supervillains. Um, I don't know if that's going to happen. That seems like that would be a spin-off thing. Maybe Warner Brothers would make a something for it for the DC streaming service, but I don't think that's going to happen. The next one down, though, is interesting to me, and that is a Blue Beetle movie using the younger character, the Latino character. I can't remember his damn name, but I think that would be really interesting because the newer version of Blue Beetle is actually, the way that the suit and stuff works, the way that with the history of the Scarab, of the Blue Scarab, and all that stuff. It's very interesting to dive into that lore a little bit. I think this movie will actually happen. And again, I'd be interested to see if it gets beyond the writing stage, but that's very, very early. The next should be a joke. That is a Plastic Man movie. Maybe if you did an animated thing, you could put on the streaming service, but Plastic Man, I don't think is going to sell very many tickets. He's basically just a discount Reed Richards, and if Marvel can't get a Fantastic Four movie off the ground, then I don't think DC is going to get a Plastic Man movie off the ground. That's going to be pretty bad. The next one is actually another one that's very interesting, which is Man of Steel 2. Um, Now, this was announced a while ago. It's still unclear whether or not Henry Cavill is going to come back to the role of Superman. He hasn't officially said anything, and the studio has not stated that he will not return, similar to, but, you can take that as kind of like, okay, they don't know yet because they announced when Ben Affleck was retiring from the Batman role. So it'll be interesting to see what Henry Cavill does and if he would come back for a Man of Steel 2. And this would also continue the story from the first Justice League film. So that would be interesting for a direct continuation because the Wonder Woman film is a sequel, and Aquaman, I believe, takes place. No, it does. It takes place after, but it takes place a decent amount after Justice League. So it would be interesting to see a direct line for Henry Cavill's Superman. The next one is another one I really hope happens, and that is a Deathstroke movie. Unfortunately, this one seems to look very unlikely. It's supposed to star, I believe it's Joe Manganiello. I'm sorry if I'm butchering the last name. He actually showed up at the very end, the post-credit scene of Batman v Superman as Deathstroke on Lex Luthor's ship, his little yacht there. Or that might have been a Justice League extra credit scene. I can't remember. But the basically it would star him, and it would kind of be the origins of Deathstroke. Now this could be another one that's really, really interesting because Deathstroke is kind of an entertaining character to watch just because of the fighting. He goes from the gun to the sword. It's very, very fluid and interesting, and if you get to kind of see how he develops. Maybe you can add in a few other characters along the way. Again, just a cool character, and I think that would be an interesting movie. I honestly thought he should have been in the first Suicide Squad movie as the lead, and then Deadshot should have been a side character. But then moving down, we have a Lobo movie. Now, this would be very interesting as well. Now, Lobo is basically a superpowered being that is a space biker and also an asshole, a crazy murdering asshole. Um, and it sounds like it would be really, really funny. The only problem I have with this is that Michael Bay is rumored to be attached to the project somehow, or they're looking to get him attached to the project. Michael Bay doesn't do humor very well. If you've ever watched the Transformers movies, so I would never get him for anything even close to a movie that might be humorous. In fact, the only thing I would let him do is direct special effects and limit his use of fireworks. But moving on from that is our last one, and that is a movie starring Cyborg, who showed up in Justice League. Again, failed movie. Um, and he's played by Ray Fisher. And this movie again has been on the slate for a while. They were planning it when they originally had the plan out for their films. I think that was back in 2015 or 2014, and this is kind of a movie that just stagnated. It's sat. I think they've had a script and maybe one rewrite since then, but they're not really putting much effort into this. I don't think that one will probably happen. I also don't think the Lobo film will happen unless he gets a strong resurgence in public knowledge, which might happen because of the Krypton show on Sci-Fi. That might be the reason why they added him, was to gauge crowd reaction. But those are all of the movies that are currently either in production, close to being in production, or have just been announced or rumored that are going to be on the DC slate coming up. So that is a lot of movies. It's basically almost equivalent to Marvel, but again, we don't have the dates, so we don't know how many years this might be spread out by. We also don't know if all these movies are going to get made, as opposed to Marvel, who has set hard dates for their films, and there will be a film premiering on that date unless certain things arise. So I want to know your thoughts. What do you think about the list of films that are here that are either going to be made or have a possibility of being made under the DC label at Warner Brothers? Uh, and are you excited for any of them? Do you think any of them suck? Do you want to see something else instead of the stuff that's listed? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Again, I like to read them. Uh, Remember to hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?